Welcome to Grieving Insomniacs. I am your host, Christy Haberman. I am glad you're here. Thanks for being a part of our community. A few disclaimers before we get started. I am a licensed therapist. However, this podcast is not to be considered mental health therapy or counseling. It is for entertainment purposes only and is not associated with my counseling practice, Christy Haberman Counseling Services. Thanks for showing up. Welcome to episode 13. Today we have the second half of the interview with Matt's mom. Sit back, listen, and enjoy.
That horrific moment.
That whole identity piece too, because I have been told numerous times by different people that I am not the same person I was before. And I think that might be some of the reason why I lost some friends, because I became someone they didn't recognize.
Yeah. Well, I think too that they don't, like we were talking about, seeing the world differently. I think that I mean, I used to dye my hair blonde. As soon as Matt, I was like, I'm not dealing with that anymore. It's back brown. I'm done. Like, I'm not going to the hair salon every other week to get it done. I don't even want to put that energy into it. It doesn't bother me anymore, but at first I was like, well, that was weird. But I think it's not recognizing you, and then also your worldview, your view of what is important changes. I was always a very giving person. I was always very social, very like planning all the events, planning all the Thanksgivings, doing all of those things. I would cook for 70 at Thanksgiving. I can't pull it off anymore. It's just exhausting to me. And certain things have become less important. Like I said, did you buy a nice purse? I carry a backpack now to work. Certain things I've lost interest in that would have mattered to me before. And I think those are ways that our identity changes, and they don't recognize us or like the fact that we don't care about those things. I don't care if you have designer jeans. I don't care if you shop at Walmart or Gucci. Like, it doesn't matter to me anymore. What car you pulled up in is irrelevant to me. Like, the fact that you're here is what matters. Like, none of that stuff goes with us when we leave. So I think all of that changes us, and not that I don't like nice things, or we don't anymore, but I think those views have changed, and I don't think people like that so much. But we do change. I mean, how could we not change? I guess, how could you not be a different person when the worst thing in the world has just happened?
Right.
How could you not? And I honestly will tell you 100% from my experience, the moms that I've met, they're amazing people. I could probably ask, I've never even met some of them. I could probably call them up and be like, I am losing my mind right now. And they would be like, where are you? It would probably be the most giving person in the entire world, because they know like what is so important in life and what really isn't. And I'm not saying that, all the humankind is some horrible, selfish group of people, and we're somehow magically not, but I just know that from them experiencing this, they've learned to give more than ever. And that is amazing to me. And I hate that this happened to all of us. But I am so shocked at the loving kindness I have received from other grieving parents. It really is amazing what they're willing to give to you.
I think it's because there's an understanding, so it's interesting, because I'm a therapist, and that translated over into my work, where after Christopher died, I was much more empathetic. It was really interesting in that respect, that my work became much more about feeling, where before Christopher, I was very much logical. And then, so I noticed that in my interactions at my job. And I actually became a better therapist but it's a huge price to pay.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I would give up everything I've learned and take my son back immediately if I could, but
Right.
I can, yeah, say that I have learned a lot about feelings, life, people, priorities. And I mean, I was I'd experienced so much grief in my life. I knew that life was valuable, but losing your child sure puts a different perspective on it. And I mean, I'll tell you right now, if I was going to go to a therapist and I would want to know if they had lost a child, because I wouldn't even know how to talk to a therapist if they didn't understand this. Even my shrink, he cracks me up, and we all have them as grieving parents, most of us.
Yep.
He always tells me, he's like, I don't know, Rachel, there's nothing, I can't fix this. Like, he'll tell me all I can do is help you with the physical side effects of grief, the heart, the racing, and then whatever, all of those things that we experience, not being able to sleep, or, you know, racing thoughts, and all the things that happen, and having, post-traumatic stress, and all of those interactions. He's like, I can only help you with that. He's like, I cannot do anything else. And that's why I consider talking to other parents my therapy, because they're the only ones that know, like, how this feels, what this truly feels like. I've described it as like almost being on hospice, but everyone's expecting you to get up and walk like a normal person. Whereas if they could see it, they could see that pain you're carrying, they would be like, whoa, did you see her get up and walk? Like, how did she do that? Like, but they can't see it, so they just expect it of you. And if I definitely, I would choose you for a therapist. Another one, I would be like, going to the one that's lost a child. They're gonna get me. Definitely. Whereas the other one, even if they're doing a great, wonderful job as a therapist, this is just something you cannot fathom unless you're in it.
Unless you've experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And luckily they don't, know. And I hope no one ever does again. And I say that, and they'll pop up a new one. But such a hard journey for all of us to be on. And that the only thing that my best advice, like I said, is support, and being able to find someone to talk to that understands where you are, and understands that you need to share your child, and you need to say their name. And if you do something, unusual, or act up, or be a fool, it happens. It happens, and you can't beat yourself up over it. Like, we're literally surviving this horrible tragedy day by day, moment by moment. And I've guilted myself over some of the weird things I've done, losing Matt. But I know that it's just out of pure longing and grief. And all you can do is just get up every single day and try the best you can, and do it again.
Right. And hope that you get to the end someday.
Mm-hmm. And that there's a good picture out there where they show like children running, and I'm just like, oh, I hope I will run so fast to my son.
Oh.
I will. And I long for the day that I can wrap my arms around him again. And it is horrible. It was a horrible, horrible situation that, I mean, I would have never thought I would be a grieving mom. Who would ever think it, I guess. But like, here we are,
Mm-hmm. Not having much choice.
Yeah. I'm thankful for you doing this and getting our voices out there. And I'm thankful for all of the moms that share their children with me, their pictures, their memories, like their love, their just little stories. Like, it just means so much to like have someone care about who they were. And I think that more of us need to be out there talking to each other, because we're all we have, really. You know?
And we have to change the culture surrounding this. We just have to.
Yeah.
We have to be allowed to talk about our children and not be diagnosed as depressed, and not being diagnosed as anxious, or being told that you have to get over it. Like those kind of things. To me, it's imperative that we be allowed to, in society. I shouldn't have to hide the fact that my son died.
Yeah. I don't know. In other countries, I'm not sure how they are, but in the United States, I know it's very like taboo to talk about your child that's deceased. Like they don't. I've seen in other countries where people have been able to bring their child home like after they died, and I'm like, wow. People think I'm weird for thinking that was amazing, but I'm. I wish I could have brought him home and had him there and been able to sit with him, and I guess us grieving moms would all like that, but everyone's like, that's morbid, that's odd. But in other countries they do that. I mean, and I've even heard people say, oh, if you take a picture of them when they're gone, that's morbid. um I didn't take a picture of Matthew. I mean, I have one of holding his hand from the viewing, but I didn't take a picture of him. Um, but I've seen moms do it, and then I've seen people just chastise them for it. And I'm like, let them be. That's their child, whatever they want to do, like you got to do whatever you have to do, you know. I mean, seeing my son gone in my mind, it's burned in there, it's etched in there like it is a photo I have, but both in the hospital and at the viewing, where he did look, beautiful. And I'll never lose that memory, but I wouldn't judge anybody for if they did want to take a picture, and I've seen people just attack people for that. And I'm like, why does it matter to you what they do? Why is everybody so judgmental of grieving parents, or how we behave, or what way we're handling it? If I see a grieving parent get up and walk, I'm like, they're strong. They are strong. And I know that it took every ounce of energy in them to show up right now.
Right. I was one of those ones that took the picture. I did.
Well, I actually regret I didn't, but.
Well, I needed the reminder that he was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just so hard to accept.
I would have probably done it, but my daughter looked at me weird when I did the hand. So I was like, hey, I won't do it, but I wanted to. I've seen moms have photo shoots at the funeral, and I've seen people just rude attack on them. Like, why would you do that? Because they wanted to, and at that time, that's what they needed. And like, I just don't understand, why would you even say anything? That is what I'm more shocked at, the fact that you're attacking them for how they're dealing with their grief. As long as they're not out hurting someone else, I don't see, why that would matter at all. Until you walk in your shoes, walk a mile in my shoes, like everyone says. But I don't even want anybody to walk in our shoes, but.
Right. But I think that's part of the problem, because people, they can, and I explain it this way, is that you can only imagine the pain to a point that you have experienced yourself. Mm-hmm. And the problem being, until you lost a child, you have no idea how bad that is. So you can't imagine what you haven't experienced.
Yeah, exactly. My daughter said to me the other day, she said, Mom, what do you want people to view your grief as? And I was like, that was an interesting question. But I said, I really don't want them to view my grief. understand would be nice, but just a little bit of understanding. And there's a quote out there, and I don't know who wrote it, but they say, run your fingers through my mind for 3 seconds and then you'll understand. And I thought that, wow, that's like an amazing, because those 3 seconds would seem like eternity to you if you knew what this felt like. It would probably be the worst 3 seconds of your life if you knew what that felt like. But if it gave just that little bit of understanding for a grieving parent, I don't want people to view it. I just want them to be more understanding. And that connects again with that secondary loss situation where you're feeling so judged and you're feeling all these things because they don't understand. They don't. And they're very lucky that they don't understand. Hopefully they never do, because they'll be right at your doorstep, I'm sure, if they do. And you know what is sad? We'll open it right up for them too. We'll be like, get in here, you get it now. And I would never wish that, but it would be nice if there was just a little understanding of how horribly painful this is for us, how much energy it takes us to get up and be present for everyone else and walk through the rest of our life knowing we're not going to have our other child or our only child. I mean, some people, it's their only child. I've met moms who've lost more than one child that I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like this, what in the world? One and now another. And, it just, I'm amazed by grieving parents, and every day they amaze me. And it sucks because you don't see yourself that way as a grieving parent. You're not like, I'm amazing, but you'll see it in another grieving parent and be like, what an amazing person. Like, look what they're doing, or how, but we never give ourselves that credit, always hard on ourselves, I think. But I do think more of us need to get out there and even as vulnerable as we are with our grief and pain and explaining this in fear of being judged, I'm sure. If we don't, it's not going to change. It's not going to change how death is viewed. It's just not, until people start to see like this is real, and they really do hurt, even though you see them smiling and laughing. They really are in pain, even though you see them walking, like, and they're still doing it. And it's okay that they're hurting. Actually normal that they're hurting. If they weren't hurting, that would be something unusual.
Right.
But they almost expect you to not hurt, and that to them is normal. But really, us hurting is normal. And I really am grateful, like I said, for you doing the podcast, and any other parent out there that's putting themselves out there to show that this grief is normal experience, and that we are still human beings, even though we're grieving parents, and we are capable of love, and we are capable of being there for other people. We are capable of going to work and doing normal tasks, and we're not going to go to lunch with you and sit there and make you feel guilty because our child's gone. Like, I always think people are like, don't invite her because we're going to not have to have a good time because she has lost a child. I'm not going to go there and make you feel bad because you have your kids. So I'm so glad you do. I want to hear about your children. I want to know what's going on in their life. I don't want to just be the person who doesn't know anything anymore because I lost a child. And it starts to become like that. And I think it's because we're not getting out there and letting people know enough. I'm guilty of it in my own personal life, just hiding from it because of that same fear of them judging me. So I guess I should take my own advice, huh?
Well, no, because it is hard. Because when I started my podcast, and then I always had that stigma of I'm a therapist too, so we're not supposed to let people know who we are. And I had that ingrained in me. But at the same time, I knew that the story has to be told. That if there was any purpose in Christopher dying, it was that. To tell the story and to allow other people to tell the story, because the one thing I didn't want to do is, I see different things where they interview the grief experts. Well, I'm not interested in experts. I'm interested in your story. Do you know what I mean? That's what heals people, is the story.
Being able to explain and what you're going through and understanding it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've walked to my son's crash site and slept in the dirt. I have done some very weird, odd things as a grieving mom, and why, I don't know, why I did it. I felt close to him there, or I thought maybe it would make me feel close to him there. I go sleep in his bed. You do things that people are like, why are you doing that? That's weird. Or, I don't think there's anything wrong with a lot of the ways that we grieve. But we do hide a lot. I know that. I know we hide a lot. So it is good to get out there and explain to people this is truly a horrific pain, and we are doing the best that we can, and we need to be there for each other, and it would be nice if people just understood a little bit more about grief, and or educated themselves a little bit, about it. If you're someone supporting a griever or in a griever's life, just a little bit of looking into what it's like for them so you can understand, and is nice. I'm lucky to have a pretty good staff at work that, sometimes, you'll sniffle here and there or something now, like something will come up, and I'm not a real big hugger or anything. So my project manager will come by and just throw tissue at me and walk back to his desk. And that is just his way of being like, I know you're hurting. Like, I like that right there is just someone trying to understand me. Also, he's stuck there with me all the time. So, but when he does it, I know it's his way of saying, like, I know you're hurting. I love you. I can't even imagine what you're going through. And he tries. And there are a lot of people out there that try. So I don't mean by saying that, no one doesn't try. There are people that do try. But I do think that we do need to get it out there more.
Yeah. And I believe that there's healing in the stories. Like, if I hear that someone went through something similar as me, I feel a lot less alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is a very lonely walk, that's for sure.
Yeah. And so then, and you don't feel so abnormal either.
Yeah, exactly. I've had some interesting conversations with grieving parents that, I'm like, you're fine, you're all right, you're where you need to be right now, like, that's for sure. Especially in the very, very early, not even a year in, you're okay. Like, don't be so hard on yourself, because you don't want to even say it, like, because it's going to come something even worse, like the actual reality and all those things that happen and hitting you in the face, like, I don't know, like a cast iron pan to your head or something, like, oh, whoa, I knew that happened, but it didn't, it's that protection mechanism your body puts over you. Some days I wish it would come back, just to get me out of my own mind, like we were talking about. But yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's hard to
get it out there, mama. That's what you need to do. You're doing a good job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on my podcast and being willing to share.
Oh, no problem. I need to do it myself. Like I said, I need to talk more, even in my own personal life.
Oh, you can come on anytime. Did it, because this is why I developed the forum.
Yeah. No, and it is wonderful. What do you do right after you lose a kid nowadays? What do people do? The first thing that I did was search for answers, or search for someone else, or search for, you read a book, or you on grief, or you do all of these things because you're just grasping for support and help. You're grasping for some type of understanding. So I think finding people that do what you're doing, it really does help the grieving parents. It really, really does. And like even on my page, I know that those parents have helped me and I've helped them. And I guess there's not very many men that open up that much, but my husband laughs because he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm talking to one of my dead moms. And he's like, why you call them that? And I was like, because we're dead inside. You know what I mean? Like, he thinks this is horrible, but then he like looks at me like I'm crazy, but he knows he actually knows like multiple of them by name because we talk so much. There's like, you get those few that you talk to a lot. And so even though he won't open up, he wants to know about them. Like, he wants me to tell me what they're saying or what they're doing or what's going on. Or so even though the men aren't opening up as very vocally on the social media platforms in grief, they are interested in it. And it's funny to watch my husband do that. He's kind of like a big, hardcore looking dude. So he's very, affected by losing our son. And so when I do these things, and he wants to hear about it, but he won't do it, he won't do it, but he wants to hear about it too. So he does that through me, like I'll be like, oh, this one mom, she was telling me this, and he gets really into them, but he won't do it. So I think it's good that we're doing this, and it does somehow trickle over to the fathers as well, even though they don't come out as much, with their grief. Maybe one day I'll get them to talk to you.
That would be good, because I think men experience grief very differently.
I just talked to a mom the other day, and I was saying, my husband, he's a big dude, hardcore. He was the first year, very, serious, like it. And he, we own our own business and construction, and you got to go to work. You can't take any time off. You can't. And I was like, what are you out of your freaking mind? You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking at him like, are you crazy? I don't even care right now. Like, and he was so just, I don't know. I didn't know how he did it. Like, but he was programmed almost just to go do, go do, go do. And then I'm not kidding you, probably about the same time I came out of my fog, he did too. And when it hit him, it was like I met a different man. It was complete. It just, all of a sudden, his wall just fell. And I was like, wow, whoa. And in a way, I mean, I kind of needed that, because I felt like I was grieving alone at that point. And when his wall finally fell, I was like, he's been burying it in more than I knew. And then that's when he started to open up more about it. He started to be interested in the other parents I was talking to, and he'll talk about how he feels in grief, or what he's experiencing. And he does do things differently, but it is completely different, the way that the father grieves than I think the mother. I feel like they need to be like the strong ones, the ones that handle everything. And sometimes what we need is them to break down too with us, or sometimes, we have to be the ones to hold them up. And that's been something that we've been dealing with for now. I think it was probably about a year and a half when he kind of broke down too. So the last year and a half, because it just hit 3 years, he's been showing like these huge signs of grief. And that's why I kind of, with the people always say, oh, it's been a year. A year means nothing in grief. It really doesn't. And the effects of it, I mean, here we are at year 3, are starting to be more apparent in him and coming out more painfully and you would have thought that would have happened in year 1, and it didn't. It took that time, and hopefully you can get some men out there to open up. But I do think that we do grieve differently, for sure. We're more boisterous about it than they are. So I think that's kind of hard on them too.
Yeah, my husband was a stepfather too, but he's the one that primarily raised him.
Mhm.
But he was kind of like that the first year too. And then the first year anniversary went by, and I felt like it was not so raw for me. And then one day he just broke down. Hopefully he won't kill me for talking about this, but one day he just broke down and said, "Why do I feel like it just happened?"
Mhm.
And I said, "It's because you stuffed it for a year."
Yeah, it's definitely something you can't. My uncle lost. He was like a brother to me 11 years ago, and he has had multiple strokes, heart attack, everything because he, big old mountain man. He's not letting this out, and it's physically deteriorated him. And I'm his only child. He was single. He was married. His son. He raised his son. I understand completely why everything happened to my uncle. I can see it clear as day. Why he physically deteriorated. And I mean, so I'm glad that my husband's now opening up a little bit more than burying it. But it's definitely very hard for the fathers, I think, to break down and show that pain, because that to them in their mind, they're programmed, don't be weak, or you know don't break down, don't do this, don't do that. And I think they need to, if they need to find a spot to be able to be vulnerable.
Oh,
And it's hard as the mom, because you're over here and you're grieving, they're grieving. And I mean, you kind of find your ways to support each other. It's definitely hard, and it would be nice, I think, if they had somebody that they could also lean on that maybe wasn't the mom. Like we'll talk to each other. They just kind of like secretly hide in pain, and I do think they need an outlet where they have support too, really
yeah,
bad.
yeah. Maybe I can convince mine to come on. I will have to see.
Yeah, get him out there. He's gonna be like, no. Yeah, I'll have to talk. I'll have to try to tell him into it. He'll be like, you're crazy. But yeah, I think what you're doing is wonderful, and maybe we get these men some support too. That would be wonderful. They really do need it, because even men, they rarely will even go to a counselor. They're like, I'm not going to a counselor.
Right.
I don't need to talk to anyone. I don't need that. I don't need. Yes, you do. You need something. You need to do something. But I mean, like I said, I appreciate you. I appreciate all the parents that talk to me, and I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that love and support that I get from all of the wonderful people that I've met. So unfortunately, wish we didn't meet like this, but this is us now. And I always tell my husband, I'm like, that'd be the scariest place in the world, man. You put a bunch of grieving moms together and go try to mess with somebody. That would be scary, because they're like a tribe. Definitely like a tribe.
Most definitely.
Well, I won't keep you on here too long. It's really good to talk to you, and uh, maybe we can do it again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
And I will hopefully get it posted tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. I just got to convert it and edit it. Hopefully the technology will work a little bit better than it did when we started.
Well, take your time, and no rush on my end. So thank you very much, and I appreciate talking to you.
Oh, well, thank you.
And share your son with me anytime. Always want to hear about him.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.